if you use GT Bank. So lately you've not been able to make transfers, right? Because they were changing their core banking platform. So my publication Tech About covers the business of that. Makes you understand, okay, this is why you're unable to use your mobile app, right? So yeah, just a brief story about myself. You already said it that I participated in AFYMP fellowship at the time. So when I just joined UCJ. I'm in Federal University, Oyekiti. I liked writing, and then by accident, I I joined UCJ. I just wanted to express myself. I just wanted to use my skills. I did not really ask what they were doing there, whether it was journalism or not. I just knew that, oh, they write and they publish stuff. So I joined. And so after I joined, then and I realized that, oh, what have I gotten myself into? Because as a journalist, you're not going to be liked by everyone. Everybody's going to think that they can do their job, they can do your jobs better than you. I think my other colleague shared earlier that you need to really know what you're talking about, right? You need to really be vast about what you're talking about. And if you're in tech journalism, you're writing to people with technical knowledge, right? You're writing. So when we covered the GT Bank story, for example, I don't work in a bank. I'm not a software developer, right? But then I needed to understand how a bank's core banking migration works. I needed to go into the details so that I can explain it to every other person that wants to read. Does anybody here read Tech About once in a while? Okay, what do you like the most about Tech About? Okay. Okay, how many of us are interested in tech journalism? Well, somehow, okay. I'll do a job of convincing you to be part of tech journalism. All right. I'll just follow my slides because sorry, give me 1 second so that I don't have my thoughts scattered all over the place. So yeah, specialized reporting. Um, so for you who is interested in tech journalism, are you really curious and passionate about like tech? Okay, so now when people see tech journalism, they think it's very, very specialized, right? It's very, very abstract, away from everyday life. But tech journalism is in two aspects. There is the startup side of it, where we cover stuff like companies like Jumia, Money. How many of us use Money Point? Who uses OPay? Aha. So you remember when there was a currency redesign policy where we found it difficult to get cash? OPay saved the day. That's like tech, right? So I'm just trying to give us examples that we can understand. So if you want to cover tech, you must first of all be passionate about it. And then you must be very, very curious about tech. Right. So I was explaining earlier that tech is in two divisions. The startup side, where we cover Jumia. Jumia is like a relative example. Cover Konga, we cover neobanks, OPay, MoneyPoint, and the rest. And there's a tech in things example. Of course, we are all aware of Band A, the Band A electricity. We recently wrote a story about a community in Lagos where they could not afford Band A electricity. It's a very low income community, but then they were going hungry to afford the electricity. So that's an example of tech in thin story. So yeah, if you want to do tech journalism, I asked ChatGPT because this is a tech thing that to define tech journalism for me. It says tech journalism is a specialized branch of journalism that focuses on reporting, analyzing, and covering development in the technology industry. So you are doing three things. You are reporting about what is going on in the tech ecosystem. We are analyzing stuff, and then we are covering the development. So when the CBN issued a currency redesign, and then everyone was cash strapped. We didn't have money. If you're a tech journalist, the first thing is to report that news, right? You have your five W's. Why does this matter? Why is it happening now? What are like the consequence for everyday people? Then after you report on that, then you now want to highlight the tech players that are making life easier for people. OP, Money Points, for example. One second. Yeah, of course, we have different types of tech stories. We have the news, we have news analysis, we have feature report, we have investigative report. I know that we might not maybe want to believe that there are investigative reports in tech. So say we wrote a story last year about a HR tech startup that they had bad company culture, right? So we dig into the weeds to ask that, oh, this CEO has been maltreating his staffs, right? The popular examples of investigative journalism stories you see is Fisayo Shoyombo going out there exposing customs duty. It comes with risks, of course. Same applies here also. Sometimes we reported last year about a First Bank hack. We also reported about a Globalcom hack. Globalcom staffs were locked out of their emails for months. They could not. They were chatting on WhatsApp. So it happens that they had been hacked and they were asked to pay ransom. They could not do that. So that story took us 1 year to write. So that's like an investigative piece. It's more like a feature story. You want to really go into the weeds to know, okay, this is what has happened. This is why it is happening. So that is one kind of example of stories. Then you have the normal reports. It was talking about when I went on TV, on News Central TV. It was about a report where that stated that most people in Lagos earn less than 100K. It's very alarming, but it is true. So you have those kinds of reports. You have reports about the amount startups have raised in the past year. So last year, startups raised 2.2 billion naira, 2.2 billion dollars, right? So you have those kinds of reports. And then I already explained that you have investigative reports. Then you have opinion pieces. So when I wanted to start my journalism career, my tech journalism career, I wrote different opinion pieces for Business Day, This Day, and other Nigerian newspapers just to like get into the tech journalism space. I wrote about Computer Village, right? There was this, most of us use pirated softwares in Nigeria. We do not purchase like the new ones. That's a story right there, right? Those are like examples of tech stories. Most of us use pirated stories. So tech journalism follows everything, the ethics of journalism. There's no difference. It's just that it is technology focused, right? It is technology focused. And like you said earlier, you don't just see a news and you're excited to publish it. You have to back it up with sources. You have to back it up with proof. We have published news where, of course, we did our homework, but because the framing somehow was slanting negative, we've had lawyers sit with us. We've had, I think, the first time I got a cease and desist email, I was really afraid that maybe I'm not doing this journalism thing again. Maybe people should just hold it. So whatever you do, if you are ever going to call somebody into question, you must make sure that you have a proof. Very, very important in journalism. You must make sure that you have a proof. If you are ever going to say, oh, this person is stealing from the bank, or this person diverted funds, have you seen proof that showed that this person diverted from? Or is it a case of he said, she said? It is going to land you in hot water. Trust me, you can go to jail for it. So whatever you are reporting, it must be backed by proof, right? And then, um, of course, most of us are relatively new to tech journalism. I would suggest places to read tech journalism stories. You have techabout.com. You can read from Tech Points. The novel example, Bloomberg. Bloomberg covers tech as well. Bloomberg covers tech and business. They cover a lot of things. You can read from the information. The information is a US website that covers technology in Silicon Valley. Most of what we are doing here in Nigeria is just a replica of Silicon Valley. How many of us are aware of Silicon Valley? Who? Okay, Silicon Valley, Meta, Twitter, all of those global companies, Google, that is where they are. And yeah, if you're wondering if there are careers in tech journalism, of course. But before I go in there, you know that tech journalism is a bit under journalism, right? Under tech journalism, there are also sub bits. Like the 21st century philosopher Charlie Poppy said, inside Dio Evian, another Evian day inside. So, like I said earlier, I already classified tech stories into two startups. Talk about Jumia, Konga, MoneyPoint, what other popular, Kobo 360, and the rest. And we have the tech-enabled stories, just tech in things, like the Band A story I shared the other time, the Globalcom Act story, telecoms, right? Now, there are sub-bits under tech journalism. Yeah, there's the creator economy, right? No, now there are different social media influencers. There's a rise of creators, Lai Wasabi. Which other creator are you familiar with? Tao. So creator economy covers how the creator economy covers how creators are making money from social media. So that's if you're a tech journalist, you can be assigned to focus on just that. So in the newsroom, I focus on new and emerging startup. Say you and a group of friends are building a new tech startup. I want to know about it. I want to cover it. I want to know the business model. I want to understand how you make money. I want to understand the problem you're solving and how you are going about solving that problem. That is new and emerging startups under tech journalism. I already explained the creator economy, right? How many of us are familiar with crypto, Web3, blockchain? There's also that side of tech journalism, right? You can just be assigned to cover Web3, blockchain, the regulation of Web3. The SEC license, yellow card. There was a ban on crypto, right? There was a ban on crypto in 2021 before in December 2023, in December 23, 2024, when they restored access, right? So that is somebody's beat under tech journalism. We also have fintech. I already explained MoneyPoint. MoneyPoint is a financial technology company, right? They are these upstarts, new banks that, of course, they act like banks, but the GT codes, they are more bigger than them. So you can also focus entirely on that if you're interested. And there's artificial intelligence. How many of us use ChatGPT on a daily? If you cannot breathe without ChatGPT, yeah, there's that also. There's artificial intelligence. So let me tell you a story about. There's a feature story on artificial intelligence. So the data ChatGPT uses. Human beings have to manually sieve out those data. It's hard labor. You train the AI model with data, right? So they'll take a picture. What's your name? You tell ChatGPT, Binga, any picture you see like this is a man. You take Tosan's picture. If you see this picture, it's a woman. So human beings, like, they do that on a regular and they are paid shitty. Like, the pay is really bad. But then the thing is that those data are very, very important to train AI. Without those data, AI will be very useless, right? So you take a picture of a ball. This is what a ball looks like. They label it and they train it. So what these big organizations that handle AI, they went to India. They opened a company for women to be training those data. And then they were paying the women $200. And mind you, $200 for that amount is really bad. And those women, they have never earned that amount. They start leaving their husbands. Like, fuck these guys, man. This is where the money is. So you see, tech journalism stories can be very broad. They are not just restricted, it can be everyday things. So that kind of example, you can. So I just wanted to, like, just broaden your imagination on what you can achieve with tech journalism. The band A story I also told you about, although it's a very, very sad story, people only pay for lights at midnight. They pay Everybody contributes 1,000. They pay, they iron their clothes, they do whatever they want to do with light until the next day. And the reason why they were classified under band A was because the feeder network, the line, the power line passed through their community. It is not because they are a very wealthy community. They are very, very poor. They are a low income community. You know, band A is meant for those that stay in Lekki. What other areas are affluent in Lagos? Bagada, VI. But because that line, that is what ties the story to being a technology story, that feeder line. So we get it now. So technology stories can be broad. Yeah. How many of us watch Mr. Beast? Or how many of us know Fisayo Fosudu? All of these tech reviews. There's that part of tech journalism where what you just deal with is phones. Oh, Apple is releasing iPhone 16. You're telling your audience, oh, don't buy iPhone 16. The camera is bad. 15 is much better, or 13 Pro Max camera is much better. There's just that category. There's a new vacuum cleaner. They're saying, oh, this vacuum cleaner will help you achieve so and so. Do we get my point? And there's venture capital. So venture capitalists are investors. They invest in tech startup. Say Benga is building a food delivery company. I think Chowdeck. How many of us use Chowdeck? Does anybody use Chowdeck? Okay, Chowdeck is a food delivery app. All right, so let's say Benga wants to work with restaurants in UI to start his own food delivery company. So you can just order on your phone. A restaurant close by will bring it here. But Benga needs money to scale, right? Benga goes to meet, sorry, your name. Benga goes to meet Mrs. Bankole. Mrs. Bankole is an angel investor. Angel investors are people with money. They have enough money, right? They have enough money to invest. Mrs. Bankole cut Benga a check of 10,000 US dollars. Then Benga starts his business, start running. Mrs. Bankole is an angel investor. Mrs. Bankole belongs to the class of venture capitalists, right? So they are the ones that power tech startups. They go, like, they give them money, right? So if you have an idea and you think that, oh, this idea, oh, I can make 1 million from it, $1 million, that is, in some amount of years. You go, how many of us know Paystack? The Paystack story was very, very popular. If you're aware of Paystack, so Paystack sold for $200 million. That is a lot of money, right? And what did they do? They are a payment processor. You want to buy stuff online, they help you process your payment. So under tech journalism, there's a bit called venture capital for people like Mrs. Bankole that are angel investors, LPs, people with money to fund. And mind you, Mrs. Bankole is not just giving you money as free will. Mrs. Bankole expects that your business idea is going to generate massive returns, right? So in venture capital, Mrs. Bankole is not giving you money to, she's giving you $10,000. She's not expecting $20,000. Mrs. Bankole is probably expecting $100,000 or 1 million, because by nature, startups, if they make it big, and if they fail, they fail. 9 in 10 startups fail under 5 years. So venture capital is very, very risky. So funding startup is like a bet. When Google was launching, right? When Google was launching, there was no search engine at the time. The idea was very, very abstract. But yet, somebody like Mrs. Bankole bet on them that, oh, I'm giving you $100,000. Go and figure it out. Just do whatever you want to do. The person got 100x returns. So that is how venture capital it is. So if you're a tech journalist, you can decide to focus on venture capital. My colleague Mukhtar focuses on venture capital. Yeah, I already mentioned policy. So yeah, I wrote a story at the time about Nigeria's digital economy bill. The bill was meant to digitize our government institution, and I think the minister of tech, commented on it about the story. So yeah, policies about tech policies are Sorry, a second. So when you write about policy, you are writing about, say, national AI strategy, for example. How many of us know Nigeria has a national AI strategy? So you can decide to focus on just the policy bit of AI. So the digital economy bill I was telling you about was digitizing government institutions. Normally if you go to a government house now, they still use paper to process most of their things. So that bill was to make them digitize things, do things online. So you can focus on policy, right? But the most important thing when you're a tech journalist is that you must be knowledgeable about what you are covering. So that's why it's important to have bits. Of course, you want to, when you're learning, they say you first learn like this, then you go deep. So you want to know a bit of venture capital, you want to know a bit of startups, you want to know a bit of policy, you want to know a bit of fintech, you want to know a bit of everything. Then when you now decide that, oh, I want to cover startups, then you then go deep by reading books, by talking to people. Like you said, most people you are writing to, they are very, very knowledgeable about what you are writing. Because you are a generalist, you are a writer, you are not a software engineer. So when you want to write about a software, you must ensure that you know the A to Z, or you have somebody that is a software engineer that can explain it to you so that people take you seriously, right? Because if you write something for me and I'm a banker and you're writing nonsense, like, that journalist does not know his work, right? Even if you go to them for feedback, they say, good article, but they're deceiving you. But if you write something that really strikes the chord, they will reach out to you themselves that, oh, nice one, but here's something you should know next time. There's another thing that you can cover, right? So knowledge is very, very important. And I think that most of us are barely familiar with, like, tech journalism. I would recommend that we read the Bloomberg Way. If you read the Bloomberg Way, I'll share my slides with you guys. The Bloomberg Way, it teaches, for me personally, I don't know for other people, Bloomberg writing is like the pinnacle of writing for me. Their writing is so concise, it's so clear, right? You read it, 300 words about a news piece, you get what they are trying to say. Their writing is so clear. So they start with, this is the news. Our inflation report is coming out when next week. So they'll say Nigeria inflation has dropped to 15%. First line, oh, Benga scoffed. Don't worry, it will drop. Eventually, one day, it will drop. So then they say, oh, this is why it has happened, and this is why it matters. So read Bloomberg a lot. If you want to be, of course, tech journalism is not for everybody. I think when we had this conference, during, I think, 2022, thereabout, I think I was like the only one interested in tech journalism. My other colleagues were interested in other things, and that's fine. The thing is, you need to be passionate about it. You can decide to, Mr. I can't remember his name. Sorry, your name. Sadamola will not be in radio if he's not passionate about it. And for journalism, you need a lot of passion, because if you want money, you can just go and do investment banking. But that's not to say there's no money in tech journalism. My colleagues in rest of world, they probably earn $2,500 per month. And if you earn $2,500, I mean, that's that's for so that's like that, but that's the peak. Oh, that's not, maybe not peak, but that's like an outlier situation. But what I'm trying to say is that you can ask my senior colleagues, you can ask them, as compared with maybe their mates in other spheres of life. Journalism is not what is going to make you bank or bring you enough money, but you need to be passionate. Most people are doing it because, of course, you earn at the job enough to sustain it. There are places that pay really well, right? But then you need that passion. Passion is very, very important, because there are some stories that are very, very difficult to pursue. And if you are doing it for the money, I'm sorry, you are not going to crack those stories. Our Global Act stories took us 1 year to do. Most of these stories Fisayo Shoyombo does is not beans. It's not beans at all. And it's not beans because they spend heavily for those stories. So you see that it's not, I don't think for him it's the money. is just a passion for exposing wrongdoing, because you can't expose custom. I mean, you need to be very, very passionate to like do this stuff. So you need to be passionate about what you write. Some people, they're passionate about gadget review, so you just focus on that. You know, when you watch all these videos that review gadgets, you see that this person, they like what they are doing, right? They're not just doing. Of course, most of those people, they bootstrap. They buy these phones with their money. They do it for years until Techno notices them, or until Infinix notices them. Like, ah, guy, come and take sponsorship or something. But what got them going was passion. So passion is very, 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 very crucial. I think my time is almost up. I was going to give, I made some examples of stories. And then, yeah, another side I omitted in type of tech stories is profiles. So profile of people. So you can decide to profile um, Mr. Inka, like, oh, he has been doing this media education for a bit, and you want to profile him. There's a profile on Nigeria's tech minister, right, about how he went from building CC Hub to how we got into government. So there's that. But most importantly, just be very passionate. Obsession is like what will give you the edge in tech journalism. You can ask radio, when you listen to radio, do you feel a sense that, oh, this person is enjoying themselves on the show? They might be having a bad day, but when you just get to that mic, they make you happy, they make you feel excited, they pass that energy to you. In the same way, you need that energy in tech journalism, because it's going to be hard. I'm not going to say it's not going to be hard. Yeah, of course, if you want to do important work, oh, it's going to be hard. But if you just want to be covering news, that's fine. If you want to be writing, oh, this person raised money, oh, this thing happened, you can decide to be that type of journalist. But if you really want to do good work, you need to be passionate about it. Yeah, thank you.
I'll give a round of applause.